The ANC in Limpopo says former party leaders should refrain from publicly criticizing current President Cyril Ramaphosa. Limpopo is following in the footsteps of KwaZulu-Natal, which has also called on three former presidents, Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma and Reuben Madadzhe, not to attack a sitting president. Let's talk about this with Reuben Madadzhe, ANC Limpopo Provincial Secretary. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Welcome to Daytime Update. Why should former presidents not criticize the sitting president when they feel he's fallen short?
Thank you very much. Let me appreciate the opportunity. Maybe we must put it into the correct context. We are not talking about criticizing or not criticizing. We are talking about former
public
presidents
criticism, yes,
having the right opportunities and platforms inside the ANC to raise their issues. We are saying maybe it will be very much imperative for them to start by raising these issues within the internal structures of the movement before they could start by surprising us and getting outside to the public domain. And you must also understand, Tembeki, that the former presidents, the platforms that they are using, they are not using platforms that are for ANC structures. They are going there as former statesmen in foundation. We think they can utilize that time and energy just to try and raise issues that they are invited to do there.
Let me put to you then something I raised with Mavuso Msimanga, an ANC veteran, in the last hour about this issue. When you say, for example, that, shall we say, criticism of an incumbent should be raised by his predecessors at a platform such as the NEC meetings, for instance, we know that much of, not even much, but a lot of the more heated points of discussion from those NEC meetings have been leaked rather frequently in recent times, with even audio doing the rounds. So what difference does it make? Is it not better then for them to say what they want to say on a podium so that we can all hear firsthand what they've got to say versus snippets that may even be distorted?
Maybe I can ask you the same question. Don't you think it will be very much important for former presidents to start by raising these issues with their organization and the incumbent first? Do you think it is fine for former presidents to raise issues with the current sitting presidents through media platforms?
I don't have to be fine with it, but I'm asking you as an ANC member, because I'm not an ANC member, I have no horse in the race. I'm asking you as an ANC member how effective or how private those private platforms, assumed private platforms are, given just the nature of how much of that information is leaked, as we've seen in the last 12 to 24 months.
Not every discussion that is in the NEC is leaked. You just have some cases where there were some leaks. But from where we're sitting, we think former presidents, they can teach us one lesson or two, because you don't want a situation where also the current sitting president, he is going to address a particular foundation and respond there. Is that what we want as a country, where people will engage each other through foundation? And our view as the PEC of Limpopo is that we think former presidents, they've got the right to air their views, but we think before they could go out of the structures of the movement, they must start with the NEC and the current president. From where we're sitting, we think the former president, they've got numbers of President Ramaphosa, they've got also numbers of Luthuli House, where they can still raise these issues before they can get outside.
And I understand, Reuben, that you are, of course, a part of the Limpopo Provincial Executive, but are you saying that none of these three men have ever, at an NEC meeting, spoken openly about what they feel has gone wrong, either with the party or the current president?
Let me tell you about the previous NEC. There were no issues that were raised. There was an NEC on Thursday. There were no issues that were raised there. And that is what worries us, to say we had an opportunity to engage because the president was there as well. We missed an opportunity to engage the president there. But just hardly 2 days after the NEC meeting, former presidents they go and make those statements. But what we are saying is that we would want to engage all former presidents as Limpopo. We have already secured an appointment with former President Mbeki. We are going to engage with him so that we can understand why are these issues not raised internally. Maybe there will be a better reason to be given to us.
So the organizers of the strategic dialogue, where former President Mbeki was speaking, say that they've noted the deliberate distortion of his remarks. So basically saying that what has been quoted or what's been made out of what he said, just from my interpretation at least, is not exactly what he meant or the spirit in which he meant it. Does that then, as an ANC structure in Limpopo, give you any kind of pause, shall we say, does it soothe your nerves somewhat that it wasn't malicious?
Well, they are speaking on behalf of their organization, and we think clearly now we are entitled, as the leadership of the ANC, to speak to our former leaders. We don't want to speak through the interpretation, with them through the interpretation of the SDG. And would want to respect the explanation that they are giving, but we also want them to give us opportunity to engage with our leaders. They must not add salt into the wounds.
So former President Jacob Zuma and President Ramaphosa, that relationship and the strain there has been well documented, has it not, since 2017, even after that ANC elective conference, right? So he's made, in fact, some would say more serious allegations against his successor, accusing him of treason, corruption and the rest of it. But were you more surprised by what has been attributed to former Presidents Mbeki and Mokante specifically?
Well, we don't want to also exacerbate the crisis that is there about commenting on specific comments made by former presidents. Safe to say, give us opportunity to engage with them so that we can also understand the angle that former President Zuma is from. Because from where we sit here, we don't think these public spots are necessary. The movement is going through some difficulties. We think the former presidents can help the movement to be able to propel forward as and when it's preparing to go to its conference. We thought these comrades can help us to resolve certain challenges that we are facing as the movement.
But when you say you want to engage with them, what will you say and how do you even begin to change their minds, especially if they're not willing, for instance, or don't see any wrong in what they've said?
No, we want to engage with them because we want to first understand why are they not using the correct channels to raise their views, because they keep on teaching us that we must respect the movement and the organization. They keep on reminding us that we must give opportunity to the current leadership to lead. We don't understand why they don't want to be led.
Do you agree with any of what's been attributed to these three men or what you heard them say? Is any part of it true? I know you've taken issue mainly with it being discussed publicly, but is there any semblance of truth? For instance, the former President Mbeki saying the ANC perhaps needs to have a conversation about what it would mean if President Cyril Ramaphosa were indeed to face impeachment proceedings over the Phala saga. That's not too outrageous to consider, is it?
I don't think there is a need for us to have a conversation about that because we've got a step-aside rule policy. There's no need for us to have a conversation because the step-aside rule is very clear. If President Ramaphosa is going to be charged, he is going to be subjected to step-aside rule like any other member.
That's on the charges, Reuben. I was asking about whether, for example, if Parliament at the end of the work of the three-member panel says, let's look at whether he should be impeached as president outside of the criminal process. Is that a conversation that the ANC needs to start having?
I don't think it will be. The ANC, it is going to start to have that conversation before the report. It will be jumping the gun. We need to give that committee an opportunity to process these issues, and the ANC will be seized with the report, and it will then be forced to act and take decision when it will have been presented with the report.
But where's the harm in planning for all scenarios, best and worst case, ahead of any outcome?
It's not necessary, Tembekile, to start planning for the scenarios. Why is it so important that all of us, we must leave everything that we are doing and focus on starting to prepare for scenarios in the eventuality when the president is not there, whether the president will be there or whatever? Why is it so important?
Because if it were to happen, Reuben, it would be the first time that a sitting president in democratic South Africa would be facing such an impeachment process. And it not only would affect the ANC, but the broader country, would it not? So I wonder why a party such as the ANC would not begin to have that discussion with just 2 months or so before a national elective conference, and when the party is trying to make sure it's as stable as possible going into conference and post.
Typically, we must be very careful of aligning whatever we are discussing in parliament processes through the conference. Because if we're going to align our discussions of planning for eventuality or for a worst case scenario, when we know that the BGMs of the ANC, the branches of the ANC, are busy nominating the leadership, it will be tantamount to intimidate branches of the ANC. It means we are saying to branches of the ANC, be careful of nominating this man. This man may not be around in the next 2 months. And we are saying, give us opportunity to also do our things internally. That is the process of parliament. We will engage with it when the parliament has concluded its processes.
But you, as Limpopo, would not want the candidate you back for the presidency disadvantaged, as you saying, by quote-unquote premature discussions about what to do in the event of an impeachment. Reuben, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm saying I did not get to a question.
I was asking you if it would be fair to say that as the Limpopo province, one of the other concerns for you at this point would be that given the public backing, the endorsement for President Ramaphosa from Limpopo, you also would not want a candidate you want to return for a second term disadvantaged, would you not, during campaigning, as you've just alluded to, by any discussions of what to do should he face an impeachment process. Is that correct?
And about that, Tembekile, it's about a matter of a principle that when there are processes that are running, you may not be seen, or you may not want to be seen, to be wanting to interfere with the processes. Because just imagine if we are going to sit and plan for a worst case scenario, and now the worst case scenario doesn't come. And we would have wasted much of our time and our energy. We have got a lot of things to do, including running the country.
All right. Good to have your time, sir. Reuben, good to have your time. Reuben Madadzhe from Limpopo in the ANC speaking to us today. Thank you, sir.